Good afternoon again. Just to make sure that you are the right people for the right working session, here will be working session 2A related to MSP cases. In case you wish to listen and discuss about ISIS, then you have to go to the second floor. So, otherwise, let's start this afternoon session about MSP cases. The cases will be presented not only during today but also tomorrow. Tomorrow we will have a second MSP case workshop where UK, Norway and Portugal cases will be discussed. And also in other working sessions there will be kind of inputs from cases outside the Baltic Sea region. But for this session we start with a bit of nice entertainment as well, because I would like to give a floor to Netherlands MSP case presented by Lodewijk Abspoel. And Netherlands, I think, at least my perception is that Netherlands had been planning for centuries and had to care about water and relations between land and sea for quite extensively. But still, they are calling MSP a challenge. So I give a floor to Lodewijk to describe what is the challenge there.
Thank you very much, Thalys. Thanks for being here. And actually, you are going to listen to a short story, which I've not even told at home. Not to my bosses, not to my minister. And so I'm using it as a test case, because normally, if I go to my minister, she asked me to describe everything in 5 minutes, which is not possible. If you want to tell an integrated story on marine or maritime policy, you need a bit of time, because it's about everything. And for that purpose, you're all been distributed our conference newspaper, which is like our draft new vision on the future in the Netherlands, 2050. I need a bit of a thing. There's the thing. The English called this a whatchamacallit. Humans do not live at sea. Anybody disagree? Raise your hands right now. Okay, good, thanks. 2050. If you want to get to 2050, you have to start today. And why is 2050 an interesting time frame? The time frame is interesting because if we start constructing wind turbines right now, and we do spatial planning, we want to make sure that we plan them well ahead. The turbines last 25 years. So by the time we constructed our obligation, we are already in 2048. Maybe they will last a little bit longer due to innovation. The underlying infrastructure, transformation stations, they go 40 years. Cables, 60, 70 years. That's the technical lifespan of these things. So why plan only for the near future, which is called 2020 or 2030? If you do not know what harbor you sail to, all winds are okay, or no wind is wrong. It's a Dutch saying, but I think it's still valid. And we cannot really replace the ports. We can set out a motion where they want to go. For the people who are not really up to date with maritime or marine spatial planning, here are some interesting things. Thanks to Steve Jobs, Charles Ehler, and I have only one notion to make: think human beings. It's all about human beings. Somebody this morning asked, what is a maritime spatial planner? What did he need to do? I'm not a maritime spatial planner. I'm a change manager, and I let people talk to one another. Am I the good person? My stakeholders trust me enough to do something about it. Separate fact from fiction. Do constructions for turbines damage herring or herring larvae? We are doing actually research on that. Here's some change in the world of governance. It's not that you can lobby me as a government official and then I sort out the issues. I challenge the society to do it themselves and have scientists work with politicians, civil servants, and with stakeholders. And kids. Here is a slide I can talk hours and hours and hours. I will not do it. Notion, create common language, and challenge the people who do something at sea to gain their own license to operate and to grow. Why? Speaks for itself. This is 6% of the herring caught in the North Sea we eat like this. It's very non-ecologically friendly because these herrings have not been able to spawn yet. We catch the herring in Danish and Norwegian waters. So what's important? Creating the atmosphere of a dialogue. This is actually in our fish auction. In the morning it's used to auction fish off, and in the afternoon, when it's still fresh and smelly, we have our dialogues there. We take movies, we do mapping together. We try to look into the potential of the sea. And then we get to a very important point, the power of storytelling. And storytelling needs a bit of an atmosphere. We've been hearing about wrecks, and so let's hear somebody who's actually diving on these things.
Mijn naam is Ben Stievelhagen, ik ben de voorzitter van Stichting Duik de Noordzee Schoon. Dat is een project wat zich bezighoudt met de bescherming van Noordzeewrakken en alles wat daarbij hoort. 20 jaar geleden, als we gingen wrakduiken, nou, je dook naar beneden, je zag helemaal geen wrak, alleen een grote schoolvis. Je dook erin, vissen openden zich, die school die opende zich, je zag daar het wrak liggen, je keek om en die schoolvis had ze weer gesloten. Tegenwoordig is dat heel anders. We duiken op een wrak en we zien 1 of 2 kabeljauwen wegschieten en daar moeten we het mee doen, helaas. Duizenden mensen genieten ervan, van het wrakduiken op de Noordzee. Er zijn prachtige plaatsen die mooi begroeid zijn, waar je fantastische dingen kan zien. Een stuk historie wat daar ligt en altijd mystiek. Je weet nooit wat je allemaal tegen gaat komen. En mensen hebben er heel veel lol aan, die bleven er heel veel lol aan om daar te kunnen duiken. Heel jammer wat er tegenwoordig gebeurt. Er zijn bergers actief op de Noordzee. Die slopen die wrakken helemaal uit elkaar voor geldelijk gewin. Er worden soms gevaarlijke stoffen uitgehaald, dat is natuurlijk prima. Maar vaak gaat het gewoon om het staal, om het brons. En die wrakken worden compleet uit elkaar getrokken. En die blijft 1 grote ruïne blijft erachter. Soms blijft er zelfs helemaal niets meer achter. En op stukken staal die nog uit de zeebodem steken. Heel erg jammer dat dat gebeurt. Het gevaar is dat er straks helemaal niets meer overblijft van die wrakken. Die worden helemaal weggeknepen. En het zijn gewoon graven. Er zijn mensen om het leven gekomen op deze schepen. Ja, en de restanten die liggen nog op dat wrak. Daar moet je vanaf blijven. Daar moet je dus niet gaan verplaatsen, moet je niet aankomen. Daar moet je met rust gelaten worden. Het is natuurlijk prima als een berger zich richt op gevaarlijke stoffen, om die uit scheepswrakken te halen. En als je daarbij het wrak kan ontzien en niet het hele wrak sloopt, zal dat natuurlijk prachtig zijn. Dat moet je vooral blijven doen. We dalen af naar het wrak en dan belanden we midden in een kraamkamer. Het is een prachtige plaats waar de vissen zich veilig voelen. Die zitten daar beschut. En het heeft echt een kraamkamerfunctie. Daar worden jonge visjes geboren en die kunnen daar veilig opgroeien. Een bijzonder belangrijke plaats op de Noordzee, onze scheepswrakken. Ik hoop dat de politiek wil luisteren, dat de wrakken een officieel beschermde status gaan krijgen en dat er wordt opgehouden met het commercieel bergen van allerlei wrakdelen. Het zou natuurlijk heel triest zijn als die wrakken totaal verdwijnen.
So this steered a little bit of a debate. What we did, we put everybody in a group, in a room like here, and then we showed one of our videos. We made 12 in total, and you find them all in the newspaper with a QR code. So other wreck divers, they came to me and they said, well, this is a bit of a strange story this guy is telling you, because he was the one who was demolishing the shipwrecks in the first place. And now he's got a new girlfriend who is an environmentalist, and now he tries to protect these wrecks. Besides, there's something else which doesn't stick to this story, separate the fact and the fiction. Wrecks in the North Sea don't last. Maybe 80 years, but within 100 years, they're all completely gone. So what's the value of leaving it there in situ? Maybe you want to tell the story behind it. Maybe you can use amateur wreck divers to, for little money and for their own fun, bring back the story and bring it to the human beings. To the kids, for instance, who love the bell and are crazy about their hero, the wreck diver. Made much more impression than the marine biologist. So how does this look like a little bit? We make it visual. Here is a poster of the seabirds of the North Sea on a level which maritime spatial planners can understand. And kids as well. And my mother. And everybody else who I talked about it. And there are the birds in languages, 7 languages around the North Sea and Latin. So we can create the common language. Well, this is going to last a little bit longer, but you get somewhat the impression of how we do these kind of things. For time's sake, I will skip on. Making maps. Actually, we didn't do anything with data and data sets and computers and stuff. We actually started to say, okay, how do you think your future looks like? Because the real data which is out there doesn't help you for the future. You have to have a vision for the future, and then you can see what supporting data you already have and maybe what you need. Make some images and discuss vision, potential, ambition, challenges, measures. You can all read this back later on. There's 50 slides, I won't bother you today. But this looks about a bit like this. And at least they allowed me to summarize a little bit, because as a maritime spatial planner, I'm also the scribin. I'm the writer of the story. In the old Egyptian days, we had the pharaoh, we had the people from the religious parties, and then the third most important person in the Egyptian empire was the writer. Be proud of it if you become a maritime spatial planning, that you can be in the middle and translate and be neutral and be a journalist. We involve the kids too. They will be around 50 when we end up in 2050. In the midst is Tidal Tina. Tidal Tina is the mascot of underwater energy, energy from water. Actually, today, they presented their advice to our minister. Ask some challenging questions to the industry. Can we heat a lot of houses using the warmth of the water? Answer in the Netherlands, no. You need a water temperature difference from 30 degrees. But you can cool, or you can do other stuff with it. It's a bit of an investigation, ongoing investigation. And this is the real challenge. Create the common language. Human beings don't work together like these flock of birds, unfortunately. But we can try to make it happen. We use some infographics, a little bit of the 21st century. We try to imagine how it looks like or could look like. And then we end up with a map which connects both the challenges land-based and at sea. The potential, stuff what's going on already. And we turned the map, because you look from the sea to the land. What can the sea offer to the land? And we looked at 2 scale levels. It's a bit of a difficulty because you have to decide what works, what doesn't work, because it's got blurry very quickly. So we have 15 different maps on North Sea scale level, on scale level of the Netherlands. There's one movie, seaweed growing. Interesting stuff and nice to eat. We have seaweed burgers nowadays. What's there to stay and what's not? It's a question, give an answer. If you can experience something, and if you can allow others to have this experience too, You can live it, you can feel it, and then you can understand it. And if you can understand it, you can do better decision making. That's what the whole process is about. And what would be even more great if you have a digital aquarium of the sea where you can do the real planning and play.
From the creators of the Baltic Sea of Colours in 2011, now it's the North Sea Challenge for 2050. Stepping up in the world of ecosystem-based maritime spatial planning. 6 countries, 1 sea. Small choices, big impacts. 6 countries have to coordinate and balance interests or face the consequences. Maritime Spatial Planning Challenge 2050. Join the game. Computers. Maps. Planners. Maritime Spatial Planning Challenge 2050 is a multiplayer game with multi-dimensional visualizations and direct feedback from the scientific model EcoPath. Join in this game of strategy and team play. Improve your understanding of maritime spatial planning. Will the sea remain a resource, a treasure, or will it be lost and dead forever? Now, it's up to you. Maritime Spatial Planning Challenge 2050. Coming soon to a sea near you.
And this is not a joke. It's actually out there, and we are still developing it. And we're trying to force scientists, well, force them, gently ask them, to put their data and knowledge and the knowledge rules of what is our impact on the marine environment, to put it in a comprehensible computer model instead of writing scientific reports which we don't understand. So that we can, if we do plan something and we know something more about the environment, for instance, where do birds migrate, then we can plan it through, and then we can quickly decide on at least an 80% level what we cannot do. And let's direct it to the kids, because that's a safe environment. You have to create a bit of a safe environment in order not to be in a grown-up situation that you will fight amongst one another. One of the most interesting things we've discovered, there's the whole debate between fishermen on the one side and the environmentalists and the marine protectors at the other side. And it's a really grown-up way of dealing in the world, because it's all the same thing. Fish are part of the environment, and of course the vulnerable areas where they like to live a lot are the ones where the fish are most abundant. So there is no contradiction. There's just the same thing. And if we can step over that thing in the here and now, that the marine environment is not okay. Fishermen also want to fish. In the newspaper you will find the ad of our fishermen, and it's boots of a grown-up and together with boots of small young people, because they also want a sustainable life. And that's the end of the day, at the end of the day, our conclusion. Everybody shares the same vision for the future. The one thing is how to get there. And that is up to us and to others to get there. Thank you very much.
So, are you persuaded with this challenge, maritime spatial planning? Is there any question immediate to this very interesting presentation? So, mute.
Mute.
Is it what you really want? Was the stakeholders the same?
No. Stakeholders normally, well, they sometimes need a bit of encouragement. The guy you saw on the little movie is one of my tech team, and he's a story writer. And the heroes in our story, they always have to overcome a few challenges. In movies which are made in the USA, they always have to overcome 5. Sorry to spoil your fun in movie watching, but maybe the first one is to allow yourself to sit back and relax and think again, and then ask a question.
So there will be a question from fisheries.
Well, that's from the Danish fisheries, but I know Pim quite well, so I think I can speak on behalf of him also, the Dutch fisherman's director. My question is, when we say, well, it's a common interest, of course it is. Fish live in the sea, and we want more fish also from the fishing industry. There is a tendency, however, to, it was mentioned earlier today, monopolize the agenda by the Greens. Quite often, it's my experience that Greens tend to monopolize the answer. That if you're against what I say, if you don't believe what I say because I'm an environmentalist, then you don't care about the fish. So I personally feel that there is an imbalance of the argument here. That it's quite often more a matter of a political agenda than of facts.
I tend to agree, and that's why I think separating fact and fiction is very important. And as a maritime spatial planner and storyteller for the government, you need to address both issues. Our fishermen say that in the last 10 years, on herring alone, they missed out 1 billion euros in turnover because the quotas were too low. I have met environmentalists in my discussions who said, we don't want to have underwater turbines because they kill the fish. I said, at the same time, you want to get rid of all the fossil fuel and coal production. So are you here to just say no? Because if you just want to say no and take the human being out of the equation, stay at home, please. So you need to somewhat force a little bit, sometimes the discussion, and sometimes be nice, and sometimes be angry, and sometimes really go through to it and say, okay, but where is the issue here? And it's not always that you can overcome the issue at the same time, but you can at least give the podium so that everybody can speak out and that all the arguments are heard. And if somebody cannot underpin their argument, there is just one thing you can ask the group or everybody else to help underpin that story and make a story, or it's just not there. And that's also a fact of life. Some stories are not true, but are gaining political support or whatever. The idea, indeed, we heard it this morning, that by mere spatial planning, you will have an activity at sea, e.g. wind turbines. It's not true. It's not true. If the wind energy companies will tell you, you can make use of this space we have. They take 1 square kilometer per turbine. We want actually have other types of energy there too, because one turbine can generate in the future maximum 10, 15 megawatts. If I can use that same space for other stuff, I maybe can generate 50 or plus megawatts on the 1 single square kilometer. At the moment in the Netherlands and in other countries, there's no co-use of wind farms, although the EWEA says everybody's welcome. So you have to kill that story right here, right there, and write it down. That's it.
That's it. Jacek, you had a question.
Methodological perhaps, but according to your presentation, what is really meaningful? I mean, because you put stress on planning as a process, you know, meeting, discussing, whatever. But what is the ultimate outcome? The outcome is that you know each other and you can discuss, or you are producing some kind of document which is binding or non-binding, or it's only visionary, influencing. How it works within the government? Because you said a lot about these divers, fishermen, but how you are then going through the government, because it's a different language a little bit. Perhaps I am wrong.
No, that's a valid question. We actually started to do this 2050 process as a pre-process without any statutory meaning, to get a story right, to get everybody involved and to see if we can develop a common vision to the future, because it's about transition. And so we'll use this document, which is going to cabinet consent at the moment and will be published in 2 weeks. We use it to guide the new upcoming MSP process, in which we also do the marine strategy framework measurements. We implement further energy areas at sea. So the document we are preparing has a planning period of 6 years. That will have political and statutory meaning. That will give stakeholders certainty on where we will consent to activities or not. So that will be the real marine spatial policy plan document kind of thing. And we have easy task in the Netherlands because we are the sole one concerning the sea. Okay, sea and coast and the coastline, that we have shared competence with the provinces and our water boards, but we are a bit at liberty. So the document in itself will work down towards a more concrete maritime spatial plan on which we base the spatial implications for permitting and licensing. And of course, apart from that, you will have your licensing and permitting based on a sectoral level. It's not the maritime spatial plan which dictates shipping or oil and gas in the end. There's supporting legislation which is already in place which will do that. But it gives an integrated view.
Okay, thank you so much for this very interesting presentation.